Hi, my name is Amanda Downard, and today I'm going to be doing a third grade lesson on seasons and making data that represents the typical weather that we may experience in the season. So I have my little third grader behind us here, and because of everything that's going on right now and not being able to get out and get things that I need, I have had to improvise a little bit. So behind me here, you can see my makeshift smart board. And this is going to represent the earth. In the actual classroom, I would have maybe a globe or something, and the sun to represent how the earth rotates around the sun and the seasons change. Additionally, there's a book that I would have liked to have used for this, but not being able to get out, practicing social distancing and staying inside, only going out when it's needed for essential stuff. I have found the YouTube video to use instead, when in the actual classroom I would actually use the book. So today we are going to be talking about seasons. And can anybody tell me what the 4 seasons are?
Summer,
Spring.
spring,
What about
storms,
winter? Winter a season?
yes, storms,
Winter, spring, summer, and fall, right?
yeah,
Those are the 4 seasons that we experience every year. Who can tell me what season we are in right now? Do you know what season it is?
winter,
Spring.
spring,
Spring. We just got out of winter and spring just started. So what words could we use to describe the type of weather we are having in spring, that we typically would have in spring? So could we use words like warm? Is the weather warm in the springtime? What other words could we use?
actually a month,
Month. The spring does come for particular months, like March, April, and May are spring months, right?
yeah,
Where our winter months are November, December, and January.
Mommy,
Just one second.
did you know,
Also, we can
spring is only on October?
we can use those words to describe the weather that we're experiencing right now. Can anybody tell me what type of weather we had today? What was the weather like today?
Spring,
It was spring weather. So was it warm outside?
yes,
Yes. Did it rain a little bit today?
yes,
Yes. So would you think that's a typical spring day?
yeah,
Okay. And so recently in our math class, we've been talking about collecting data. And that's what we're going to do today. But instead of using numbers like we have been, we're going to collect data using weather and
Sunday,
spring weather. So,
excuse me,
what kind of clothes do we usually wear in springtime? Do we bundle up in heavy jackets?
no,
No. Do we sometimes go outside in pants and a long sleeve shirt?
no,
We did today because it was a little cooler today, wasn't it?
yeah,
But we also, the other day, it was springtime. Did we wear short sleeve shirts outside?
Yeah.
We did. What activities can we do during the springtime weather?
everything,
Everything. Can we go outside and play?
yeah,
Yes. Do certain sports start in the springtime?
yeah,
Like what?
like basketball, soccer,
Soccer, very good. So sometimes during
tennis ball,
Mhm.
baseball,
Right. So sometimes during the springtime,
something,
the weather can be nice enough outside that we can go outside and play, right? And then on some days it's a little bit cooler, so we have to play inside.
Fun days.
or we have some days, or we have some days during the springtime that are rainy. Like today was a little bit rainy. We have some days in the wintertime that are cold, right?
Sundays are supposed to be
We have some
really
days that are windy outside, right? We had a windy day the other day, correct?
Yeah.
So what I'm going to do is pass out our data collection sheet, and it's going to look just like this. I have drawn one up on the board to help you guys out.
1, 2.
And so we're going to talk about the different types of weather
Can I
that
see
each season has. And so what I have given him is this data collection chart. This is what is the weather. On the bottom are different types of weather that we experience.
Can I tell you?
And on the side are 8 days, because we're going to go over 8 days of weather that we would typically experience. So, Jace, I have given you that. If you want to go ahead and get your crayons out, because we're going to need them. They're underneath there. Be careful, please. So, when we think about winter, we think about cold weather and snow. When we think about spring, we think about the warmer weather. It can be rainy, it can be a little cooler, but not as cold as winter. So next we're going to read, before we start on our data collection sheets, we are going to read a book called Weather in Spring. And I'm just going to hold this up so that you can see it also. This is the book that I would be using during this time. And so, Jace, we're just going to listen to this story, and it's about spring weather.
What a beautiful picture. It's spring. Spring is here. The weather feels warmer. The sun shines longer each day. The shining sun. We must be on page 6. Take a look. Yep, we sure are. As Earth moves around the sun, it spins on a tilted axis. So here's the Earth, here is the sun, and the Earth actually goes around the sun, or orbits around the sun, and rather than being straight up and down, it's actually tilted a little bit. So it says it's tilted on its axis. In spring, the sun shines more directly on the northern part of the Earth. Well, the northern part's where we live. So here's spring, and because the Earth is tilted, it is going to point closer to the sun. So this part's closer than that part. So this part's going to be a little bit warmer. It's a little bit more contact with the sun. Sun's super important, isn't it? The sun rises earlier each day. It sets later every night. It just means that we have more daylight in the spring, which is one of the reasons why we have so much plant growth, which is so wonderful.
Mommy, let's
Longer
never
days
be
bring warmer
astronauts.
weather. Sunshine melts snow. So as
Maybe
the snow
the
melts,
sun
it makes it
will-
easier for animals to find food. Water from melted snow runs into creeks and rivers. Sometimes waterways flood because there's so much water. Ooh, I love this. So beautiful. Spring storms. Spring weather changes often. Warm, sunny days follow cool, rainy days. So beautiful. Storm clouds form, rain falls, lightning flashes, and thunder rolls. So sometimes you can get some springtime storms. So the flash is the lightning. The sound you hear is the thunder. You see lightning and you hear thunder. Small storms can become big storms. Tornadoes swirl. So sometimes the storm starts to rotate around, and if it doesn't touch the ground, it's a funnel cloud. As soon as it touches the ground, it's called a tornado. And then it will stir everything up in its path. We don't have many tornadoes, or any tornadoes where we live, so we don't need to worry about that. Your spring Spring can be sunny, rainy, and stormy. What weather does spring bring to your home? And you can talk to somebody in your house and talk about your spring weather. You can even pay attention to the weather you're having right now and see what kind of weather our spring is bringing us. Here's the glossary.
So now that we have finished that book, we are going to talk about
I drawed all
our
the
weather that we have here. And so what I have done is pulled up on the board for you guys to look at
numbers. Mom, look at my
the weather forecast, thank you, for the next 8 days. Jason, you looking? And so this would actually be the forecast pulled up on the smart board to show the next 8 days. Just to give you an idea of what I would be using on the smart board, I went ahead and drew all of this in so that you could see it better. But what we're going to do here is we're going to look starting with Sunday, because that was actually today. We're going to look at what type of weather did the forecast say we were going to have today?
rainy.
Rainy.
Clouds.
Rainy clouds. So what we're going to do, we need to look also, you need 6 different colored crayons because that's what we're going to use, okay? And so for
1,
rain,
2, 3,
we're going to
4.
make this
5.
graph to show the data of the weather that we typically
6.
have in
I
spring.
got 6 crayons.
Okay. So we have, let's talk about this. We have rainy weather today. What was the temperature?
69.
69 degrees Fahrenheit. And what was the wind speed?
Wait, I'm on right there.
What was the wind speed?
5.
5 miles per hour. That's not very strong wind, so it wasn't very windy today. Was 69 degrees warm today?
Yeah.
Yes, and we did have some rain. So here we are going to find our rainy weather that matches, and we're going to color in this one block,
Mommy.
and we are going to find the warm weather block, and we're going to color one block in warm weather to show that we've had one day of warm, slightly rainy weather. Okay, so for day 2, very good, we are going to look and see what Monday says. Monday says it's going to be
Sunny.
sunny, and what's the temperature going to be?
66.
66 degrees, right. And what's the wind speed going to be?
Wait, 6.
That's a 2. 2.
2.
2 miles per hour. So again, it's not very windy again tomorrow. So what we're going to do is, I see here that we're going to have another warm, sunny day. So we're going to find our sunshine. Okay.
I don't have the sunshine.
You do. It's right here. Okay, we're going to color in one block for our sunshine. And it's going to be warm again. So we're going to go right above this one to number 2 and color in one more block above that. Okay, let's look at Tuesday. Tuesday says, is it going to be
Cloudy.
cloudy? And what's the temperature going to be?
76.
70 degrees. And the wind?
2.
2 miles per hour. So still not a very windy day. We have a cloudy day this time and warm weather. So we're going to find our cloudy
Mom,
day.
you're going too fast.
I'm sorry, brother. So you're here with me, right? We're gonna
Wait. I'm not done.
Okay. I'm gonna let you catch up, okay? But I'm gonna go ahead and color in Tuesdays, and it said it was gonna be cloudy. So I'm gonna color in this one a different color. And warm. So I'm gonna go back over here to my warm day and color in the 3rd block.
Mommy, I don't have blocks.
And then that's how we collect all of our data. I'm coming.
Block.
You do, buddy. These are your blocks, okay? Yeah, these right here are your blocks. And so that's just what I'm coloring it up there to show us collecting data, okay? So I'll give you just a second to catch up. This is how we collect our data, just like we have been doing in our math class of collecting data. And so over the remainder of the week, I would like you all to look at the forecast beginning with Wednesday. Find out if it's going to be sunny, cloudy, rainy. I need you to look at the wind speed and see if it's going to be windy, if it's going to be cold by looking at the temperature, or if it's going to be warm by looking at the temperature. And just like I have shown you here, I want you to go ahead and collect that data and color in your charts.
Wait, I have green. That's summer, right here.
This is summer, yeah, warm. This is warm. Cold, windy.
Red.
And so at this time I would give all the students just a few minutes to look at this data, go over it, and color in everything. So I'm actually going to go ahead and color in the next Wednesday and Thursday, just for time purposes. So
Okay.
we'll have another one coming up. Two colder days.
Oh, my purple.
And so now that you all have finished up your charts, and understand that you're not finished, you just keep doing that, okay, if you would like.
Oh,
But
I'm
okay.
just going to.
So now that you guys have finished this up, we can look at the information that we collected about the weather for the week, for the next 8 days, and how we've interpreted this data. And so the data we collected shows us that we're going to have a couple of sunny days, a few cloudy days, which there should have been 3 there, so this one actually goes all the way up to here.
Oh, okay. I'll get. No.
The same amount of rainy days as cloudy days, just a couple of windy days, a few cold days, and mostly warm days. So by looking at this chart, we can see that typical spring weather is warm, slightly rainy, and slightly cloudy for this week for our area. Different areas experience different types of weather as stated in the book we had read. So can anybody tell me what we were going to have more of? Like the type of weather we're going to have more of by looking at this chart? This
Summer.
warm days. So we're going to have mostly warm days.
Mom, write in another purple on your chart.
So next, before I move on, I want to make sure that nobody has any questions about the data that we collected. What's your question, Becky?
Purple's 2, so we need to write 8.
Okay. So moving on, I am going to give you all, I'm going to move the camera over here so we can see just a little bit better. Our next sheet,
Mommy.
and it
This
is our
is how
spring
many-
sheet. And so this is the sheet that I'm, sorry.
Green is.
So with the spring sheet, what we are going to do is, by using the data that we collected, we are going to create our own weather forecast for this week using typical spring weather. So what you're going to do, and this is the sheet that I would give them, and also with that sheet, they are getting cutouts of some spring weather. So they have sun, cloudy, windy,
Okay,
rainy.
that's so many. We have 9
So
of these.
with that, they are going to create their own weather forecast. So I would actually throw in some different types of weather for this, so that they can be able to take the data they collected and appropriately match typical weather for spring. And so I might actually throw in some snowy days or some fall looking days, so that my tier 1 learners can take that information, be able to appropriately select which stickers would go with typical spring weather. For the tier 2 learners, I would actually give them
Mommy,
these
this
sheets
say is more
that have
than
the
everyone.
a typical spring temperature written in for them, and so that they can match that with the appropriate stickers that would go along with that temperature. For my tier 3 learners, they would get a similar chart with temperatures already written in for them. Additionally, they would only get
Mommy, what's
the windy,
summer?
rainy, cloudy, and sunny
What's
stickers,
the warm day?
so that they can appropriately
I
make
guess.
those choices as far as the typical weather for spring. And this particular lesson, so like tomorrow in the classroom, we would do this again for a different season. And so those learners would be able to additionally make those choices. It would be the same type of information, just with different seasons. So what we're going to do is, I have given you all this weather forecast, and what you're going to do is you're going to go ahead and write your name at the top, and from Sunday to Saturday you are going to make a weather chart to show what the weather would be like this week, what you think the weather would be like this week for typical spring.
Warm.
So you can use your data sheets that we did before for reference points to show, to go back and look at and figure out what the typical spring weather is. So what you'll do is you'll take and cut out the right stickers that you want to use for this day or this day, and you're just going to glue them. So let's say you want that to be like that, okay? And you're just gonna take those and glue them on whichever day, and write in the temperature that you think would be an appropriate temperature for the spring day. And then on the bottom, underneath your weather chart, you're going to give me words that describe typical spring weather that we have already talked about. So go ahead and give you that. Do you want that there?
Yeah.
Okay. You go ahead and fill those out while you all are finishing those up.
Saturday.
On Saturday. Sunday, correct. We'll go ahead and give you all
Monday
of those.
is cloudy weather. No.
So after they are finished with their forecast for the week, this forecast, everybody has finished up. I'd go ahead and collect their forecast and their data charts together, and evaluate those based on satisfactory, emerging, or unsatisfactory performance. And so satisfactory would be that they completed the charts, both charts, placed the data in the correct boxes, and did an appropriate spring forecast using appropriate weather. Emerging would be they either left a few missing boxes, didn't appropriately choose weather that would be typical of spring, and unsatisfactory was they either didn't complete 1 or 2 charts or placed inappropriate weather in the box, in the forecast, or didn't quite grasp the concept of this is typical spring weather. And so at the end of the lesson, I would go ahead and collect everything, and then Jace, honey, I know you're still working, but I'm going to go ahead and ask some questions, okay? Just as if I'd already collected that, you just continue. So I would go ahead and ask, who can tell me again what the 4 seasons are? Summer.
Summer. Go
Spring. Winter and fall, that's correct. And who can tell me what the typical weather is for spring?
Oh.
What type of weather do we have in spring?
Warm.
Warm weather.
Except it's all the way up to 10.
Okay. We could have rainy weather, windy weather for spring, but it's mostly warm and slightly rainy. And also,
Okay.
we talked about, can anybody recall why our seasons change?
Because it's Earth.
Earth. How Earth is tilted. So Earth isn't like this, it's tilted a little bit, and it rotates around the sun.
Wait, I'm
And it
going
takes
to get
a whole
big
year
ball.
for it to rotate around the sun, and that's why our seasons change, is because the sun is at different points on the Earth. And so does anybody have any questions about why we have different seasons or the typical spring weather? What's your question?
I'm going to go get that ball to, like...
Do you have a question about our spring weather or what we have learned today?
I'm putting it in a order.
Okay. And so then at the end I would just ask if anybody has any questions. I have lost my very young 3rd grader's attention, so I would just wrap up the lesson plan, collect those sheets, and evaluate those based on whether or not they were completed and appropriately done.